Welcome back. Private Power Producers Association has told the PM that a failure to address their concerns would lead to a scenario of power shortages coexisting with stranded power assets of 42,000 megawatt. PM assured the delegation that government would try to find a practical, pragmatic and viable solution to their problems. He said that there is a need to reduce risk to make power projects viable, and it is a national challenge rather than a sectoral problem. To talk in detail on the subject, we have with us Mr. R.v.Shahi, former Power Secretary, Government of India, and Mr. Pradeep Lenka, CEO, Power Business, Aditya Birla Group. Good evening, Mr. Shahi and Mr. Lenka, and welcome to Power News. First of all, Mr. Lenka, I'd like to ask you, PM assured the private developers that Coal India would meet its supply obligation target. Seeing the fact that Coal India had 0% growth rate during last year, how do you see Coal India meeting the much expected demand of power sector in the near future?
Before I get into your question, there are a couple of things. Coal India is one of the largest and best managed mining company of the world. Given 3 lakhs of people working in that company and scores of mining engineers there, it will be a target which can be met. But what I am only worried is it may not be possible for them to meet in this year. Perhaps they will take 2 to 3 years to meet. And this is only incremental 150 million tons. And I am not sure whether this 150 million tons of incremental production was supposed to be washed coal or unwashed coal. Because in the next 5-year plan, we are targeted to only burn washed coal in power plants 500 kilometers away from the pit heads. So my view is, if the Coal India can target additional production of 200 million tons, at least from the largest mines of Mahanadi coal fields, Eastern coal areas and Southeastern Central coal areas, this target can be met.
Mr. Shahi, PMO office statement says that the government will try to find out a practical, pragmatic and viable solution. According to you, what could be the most appropriate solution to this critical situation?
According to me, there are solutions. They have to divide the problem into short term, medium term and long term. The short term can be that if we are importing coal, how are we going to compensate the utilities who import coal? Today there is lack of clarity on this. People get only 60–70% of the coal linkage. If they have to get imported coal to substitute for the shortfall in the linkage quantity, they need to have a pass-through to the from generating company to the distribution company, so that there is no problem about the policy initiative. So I think this committee or the task force should address that issue. Another short-term measure could be that if there is a licensed quantity environmentally cleared, suppose a coal mine has been cleared for 10 million ton of production by Environment Ministry. Today Environment Ministry says don't produce more than 10 million ton, even if they can produce. So I think if they can produce more from the same coal block or coal mines, Environment Ministry should not come in the way. So this could be an administrative decision which can quickly give results in next 2, 3, 4 or to 6 months. So that can be another short-term solution. And long-term solution of course is Coal Act, that should be amended so that other players also come in the coal sector like it is in the power sector.
Mr. Lenka, Coal India's negative growth rate and Environment Ministry's go, no-go policy has affected the power sector a lot. And today, private sector projects worth Rs 55,000 crore is stuck in absence of firm fuel supply agreement. Don't you think in such a situation, investment is expected to be severely affected?
Yeah, there is no doubt about it, because fuel is the lifeline of power. And if there is no coal, there is no way to produce power. Even if we have a construction time of 3.5 years to 4 years, but we must get the assurance of the fuel while we are restarting the project. The reason being, neither the banker nor we can be assured to start a power project without assurance of fuel. And after having entered into LOIs with the Government of India and the National Coal Company, after paying the bank guarantee, after doing everything, if the coal is now refused by the national coal companies, it is a very sorry start of affairs for the power sector. And we are really I am happy to only say that this problem, where it started and where it has landed, has been now analyzed and understood by everybody. And I am sure the Prime Minister has taken the right call at the right time.
Mr. Shahi, power producers asked the government for clarity on policy and clear timelines so that they can plan their investments and work accordingly. Don't you think that the government had an incompatible policy for coal and power sector? On one hand, government is planning almost double capacity in 11th plan, and on the other, most of the coal blocks were declared no-go zone. What do you have to say about it?
The no-go area was a wrong decision. 2 years back it was done and it has done the lasting damage. Its effect is being seen now, its effect will continue to be seen in next 2 years. Fortunately, no-go area policy has been abandoned, but also ground reality is that even after declaring that no-go area is not valid anymore, I think in forest clearance is taking equally longer time. So I think between the intention of the government that no-go area has been given a go-by and action on ground, there has to be compatibility. So I think people are seized with this. Minister of Environment and Forest also has given an indication that power sector would be treated with some degree of priority. We only hope that for coal mines, for coal projects, on thermal side, in power sector and for hydro projects, there would be quicker clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest.
Mr. Lenga, PM formed secretary panel to resolve power sector woes. All eyes are on what happens over the next 90 days, after which the power CEOs will have another meeting with the PM. What would be your expectations in these 3 months period?
The first and foremost, to bring back the confidence of the investors as well as the power sector developers, I would request the Committee of Secretaries to direct Coal India to enter into fuel supply agreement with all the IPPs who are awaiting fuel supply agreement execution even after signing LOI and giving the bank guarantee. That should be the first step which should happen in this 90 days. Second thing is they must start supplying adequate quantity of coal to each and every power station that is already stabilized and is in operation. And railways must be also targeted to supply as much of rakes at the pit head so that the transport of coal, which is a bottleneck now, can be significantly improved. Last but not the least is the Environmental Ministry must come out with certain amount of leeway guidelines so that the sector gets a fillip, not come with all this no-go, go and no resolution type of time wasting tactics and techniques which are neither in the interest of the industry nor in the interest of the people of large.
Mr. Shahi, what would be your expectation in these 3 months?
You see, this task force is a good task force. Mr. Pulak Chatterjee, Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, is an active and business-like person and a taskmaster. Definitely, I hope that if this task force divides the problems into short-term, medium-term and long-term in terms of likely solutions, they will come out with positive outcome.
Thank you, Mr. Shahi and Mr. Lenka, for joining us in Power News. Here we'll take another short break. Ahead in the bulletin, we have an exclusive report on Elecrama 2012. Stay tuned in.